Hark! What is that sound I hear? Oh, it's the ringing of the telephone or the past phone. Oh, hello? Oh, hello, me from the past. What? I did an entire video about why Boris Johnson was probably going to become some sort of shock jock in the future. Wow, incredible to know. You'll never guess what. He's just joined GB News. I'd like to call this I Called It. Because for those of you who remember that video, I said it like this: that after Boris Johnson had now departed, what was his future going to be? What future destination was he going to go to? Now, of course, he returned, or at least he joined the Daily Mail, thus restarting his somewhat journalistic career, although given the fact that we've heard that it's not even potentially Johnson actually writing some of those articles, kind of interesting to say the least. But one of the things that I did say was eventually he would go and start his own media career, be it he would join someone like GB News or Talk TV, or he would probably go on some right-wing radio. So that would probably be like Talk Radio. Some that could have potentially been a destination for him. Or the third option, as I said, maybe Johnson just launches his own YouTube channel. Like I say, he'd have enough backers to be able to do it. It wouldn't surprise me. Like I say, there's plenty of blueprints for him to follow. He follows like the Ben Shapiro or the the Sargon of Akkad model. There's the Dave Rubin model he could follow as well. The Glenn Beck model. There was a ton of like pre-built paths if he wanted to go in that direction he could follow. And to be honest, he might still go in that direction. Now, why might he eventually go in that direction? Well, before we do go getting into that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as well, down below, there is the YouTube thank you button. There's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. There's my Patreon page link as well. And of course, there's the Pony Club link down below as well. And thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So, back through the mists of time, one of the reasons I said why he would start a media career and maybe eventually living on that path is that Johnson loves the attention. And on GB News, I think you are going to see Johnson find himself as the presenter Johnson, as the radio show guy, the TV news guy, the guy who can be there and cause trouble. He can hurl his thunderbolts from GB News for all he wants, and people will tune in by the thousands, regardless of whether they love him or hate him, just for the fact that he gets to, well, as we said, just cause trouble. He will be like some ancient form of Olympian god hurling thunderbolts down at the Conservative Party, saying, haha, see, I told you should have never have gotten rid of me. Meanwhile, of course, you have all the COVID inquiry stuff going on at the same time, and ultimately, Johnson will probably be given free rein to give his own comment of what he thinks in regard to the COVID inquiry. You'll also notice, by the way, Supertansky pointed out in her own video how there is a bizarre media blackout around the COVID inquiry. Kind of strange, and I agree with her on that. It is really odd, but there you go. But I think Johnson will find himself here. I really think he probably will. I think he will come to enjoy being a presenter, a shock jock of where he can go and say all these things. But of course, he's got to be a bit careful because remember, Ofcom is now heavily looking at GB News with a very fine tooth comb because they keep on, breaking rule after rule after rule, and Ofcom is gearing up for a big fight with GB News. So I think two things will happen. Either A, GB News will lose its TV broadcasting license, which means, well, they'll just switch to an online version of GB News, which also asks the question, of just what state are GB News's finances in. We thought that they were in an absolute mess, and yet somehow they've managed to coax Boris Johnson to being a presenter. I wouldn't shock me, to be honest, if we found out that Boris Johnson got an absolutely ridiculous salary from doing this. And I wonder how all those other GB News presenters who have had their salary cuts because of the absolute financial dire straits that we've been told time and time again that GB News was going into. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But if it does go into its own online realm, well, hey, you don't have to worry about Ofcom anymore. You can do and almost practically say what you want if it's, not on a TV broadcast at that point. Don't have to worry about Ofcom. They can run wild in a sense. And I think at that point, that's when Johnson will really get into his own. I think he'll come to enjoy it. I think he'll come to love it. And then eventually he'll go, actually, my mate, whoever, is offering me a bucket load of money to go and do this show by myself, like once a week in a live stream studio. Boris Johnson would do that in a heartbeat. He would absolutely jump to that in a heartbeat. And I will still say this now. I am still putting in a future phone call that one day Boris Johnson will have his own YouTube channel where he gets to spout off and say whatever he wants. I mean, I think eventually Ofcom's going to get him because it's Boris Johnson. Of course, he can't help himself. And like I say, the Ofcom will get him, I think. They will probably fine him quite well. They will fine GB News, should we say, quite a bit of money. And then they will realize, oh, well, actually, GB News isn't, well, Boris isn't so much an asset to GB News. He's more a liability. I think we need to get rid of him. Like I say, Boris Johnson isn't the most honest person, shall we say, when it comes to reporting the truth. Again, various examples throughout his own journalistic career. But eventually, I think he will jump ship from GB News and he will start his own YouTube channel. I still think that is ultimately his direction, and he'll copy like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, or whoever, whichever right wing person online. I'm still surprised, to be honest, Nigel Farage hasn't jumped on that bandwagon as well. But hey, maybe that's been a blessing in disguise. But eventually, I do think Boris Johnson will go in that direction because I think he will come to love being on GB News. I think he will probably take to presenting probably very well. And then that's where he'll sort of get the bug for it. And eventually he'll realize, well, I don't need GB News. I can create my own vehicle where I reap all the profits and money. And like I say, I think there will be enough people out there, both, shall we say, very rich backers here in the UK and probably from America as well, who would gladly back that type of Boris Johnson vehicle. So we'll have to see what happens, of course, with GB News and Boris Johnson, how long this partnership lasts. But I don't think it'll last long. I think Boris, as always, he's going to end up, shall we say, saying too much, and Ofcom is going to come after GB News, and then they're going to realize, well, actually, he's more a liability than he is an asset. Off he goes. Boris goes, hey, I can do this by myself now. Starts his own YouTube channel. So, as always, thank you very much, of course, for watching, and please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club down below as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.